the contamination problem. So this photo, you can see what I've got here. I got a plastic straw, a bit of styrofoam stuff, a label from a piece of fruit. This looked like it was maybe part of a straw, and I'm not sure what that was. Any idea of where I got these items? Well, I bought a bunch of mulch from Cedar Grove, which does our composting, to put into my garden. And so I got a whole truckload of it. I rented a truck and drove this stuff over to my house and unloaded it. And I saw these things in it. They did not degrade. People still put stuff, even Cedar Grove, which has a good process for grinding up stuff and getting contaminants out of there, didn't catch them all. So the contamination is a big problem because it decreases the value of the waste. And with compost, especially if there's toxic stuff in there, I mean, this stuff doesn't look super dangerous, but you don't really want it in your garden. And there's certainly other worse things. So we as consumers can try to be more responsible by making sure that the stuff we put in is clean and sharing the message so that other people also put in clean stuff, because if we're doing it right and our neighbors are all doing it wrong, unfortunately, we end up kind of stuck. I know people want to do the right thing, right? We all kind of want to do things correctly, but we often don't know how. And that's part of the guidebook that I'm putting together. I'm working on editing it now. And this is an example draft worksheet. In the real book, they'll look much prettier than this. But for example, this has for disposable plastic waste, and it has a bunch of different items that you might have. And you can mark, oh, does this go in my curbside recycling bin? Does this go in the grocery store bin? Does it have to go in the landfill? And you can put notes. And I got ways that people can help track what they're doing with their waste. So when I said about labels, if you guys can see this eye chart here, it's got so much stuff on it. This came from the city of Redmond. Yes, it's possible to read this and figure out what you need to do. But if you're just out and about and you're looking and you see a bin and you want to know whether you toss something there, you don't want to stop and read all this stuff. So ideally, labeling is going to be clearer. For example, I went to, actually this was information from a report on curbside recycling, and I got a bunch of data, which I'll be sharing in my book, but they also had a link to a place where you could make your own DIY signs to put on bins. And I designed these out, and they have an actual URL for recycling in Bellevue. And I printed them out for the staff at the Bellevue Riveter to put on the containers, because then it's really obvious which container is which. We got a blue bin, which is obviously recycling, but you can list what to include. So if you're putting a bin in a city where maybe they don't take glass, you don't put glass, you don't list glass here. And then we have the blue bin, and then there's a gray bin and a black bin. And the gray is lined with a compostable bag, and it is the compost. But if you don't look carefully, people aren't always used to that. So if you could put just a nice, obvious sign on the compost one, hey, there you go. And I just made a note here, food waste, paper towels, tea bags. I mean, that's not the only thing, but just to remind people that those things all belong in there and that everything else is trash. So I think, encouraging places to do clear labeling. In a lot of ways, it's the responsibility of the hauling and garbage and recycling industry to help consumers make the right choices and to provide clear directions and guidelines. But I guess, yeah, I've got this quote here about more than change our own habits, change the mindset of our throwaway society. So a lot of this workshop is about, once you have something and you know you need to dispose of it, where do you put it? But if you can not generate as much disposable packaging to begin with, and again, there's multiple groups, businesses, everybody who are responsible for this. But if we can push for smarter policies in our communities and throughout our states, that's even better. I want to be able to help spread the word, help educate people so that we can try to make, not only just make recycling work, but try to create less stuff in the first place and at least do the right thing with it so that it can hopefully find a new use somewhere.